Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Andrew Robinson and I am a recovering audiophile, and if this is your first time to my channel, I would just like to say welcome. Welcome to the place where we talk about hi-fi, music, art, and design. But if you're a subscriber and you've been around for a while, you already knew that, so welcome back. Today we have another fresh review for you. We are talking about something we've actually never reviewed on this channel before, and that is a DAC, or digital to audio converter. And not just any DAC, but a DAC that is quite popular and that a number of you have requested. This means that we are talking about the Schiit Audio Modi 3 DAC. Let's get into it. So Schiit Audio, yes, that is its name, S-C-H-I-I-T Audio. Schiit Audio is very popular on the internet, especially on YouTube, for a number of reasons. The chief among them being that a lot of their products are supremely affordable for the performance that you get. And the Modi 3 reviewed here is no different. It retails for $99 direct on Schiit Audio's own website, as well as elsewhere on the internet, say for instance, Amazon. And Schiit Audio products are largely made in the US. That is to say, most of them are made and assembled and sourced from parts that come from Southern California or elsewhere in the US. In fact, Schiit jokes on their website that the wall warts that they use for a lot of their products come from China, so sue them. And I like this. This isn't necessarily why I chose to reach out to Schiit Audio for the purposes of getting the Modi 3 in for review. It's just kind of a nice benefit. I did want to give the Modi 3 its own review because I do feel like it's a very important product. Not because it is necessarily a giant killer or something that redefines DACs at this price point, but because I think for a lot of people getting into digital music, digital streaming, and are looking to build a modest two-channel rig, maybe even a headphone setup, a DAC like the Modi 3 makes infinite sense. But before we get into its performance, I know we don't dive into a lot of specs on this channel because, well, you don't listen to specs, but I do understand, especially with DACs, that specs can and are important. So for those of you that want to know more about the Modi 3 as it relates to its makeup and specs, here they are. Initially, I had sought out the Modi 3 DAC to add some digital connectivity to the vintage Pioneer receiver that we reviewed last week. And in this respect, it did great. It gave me all of the connectivity that I wanted. However, shortly after receiving the Modi DAC, I also took possession of a Cambridge Audio Network streamer, which has DACs built in, but also put all of the streaming services that I was otherwise connecting via a laptop through the Modi to the Pioneer. It kind of put it all in one box, albeit a very expensive box in comparison, but it did streamline things a bit. So the Modi DAC ultimately did not stay in my main living room system. But that's okay, because I brought it into my office here where we're recording, and I found that it had a myriad of uses, and I have since used it every single day. Because, let's face it, the Modi 3 is kind of a set and forget component. Yes, it does have input options. That is to say, you can connect to it via USB, optical, or coaxial digital connections. And there is a toggle switch on the front that enables you to switch between all three. But outside of choosing the right input, it doesn't really allow for any more adjustment really than that. In fact, if you use the USB input and connect it to, say, an iMac like I did, you even lose the ability to control volume via your keyboard. You can do mute on off. You can toggle mute on and off. But in terms of writing the volume with the keyboard commands, those become disabled. So if you are using, say, a pair of powered loudspeakers like the Kanto YU6s that I have on my desk, I was forced to then use the variable volume pot on the front of those in order to regulate the volume when the Modi 3 DAC was engaged. Why would I use a Modi 3 DAC with something like a Kanto YU6, which has digital inputs, i.e. a DAC built in? And I have to say, this is probably not the common usage for an a DAC like this because the YU6 does have a DAC built in. But it is possible to use the Modi 3 with a pair of YU6s. You're simply going out of the Modi 3 using its analog outputs into the line in or analog inputs on the back of the YU6, effectively bypassing its internal DACs. And as a result, the sound was very, very pleasing, and I would go so far as to say marginally better than using the DACs built into the YU6s themselves. I'm not going to say it's night and day different, or that by simply adding the Modi to a pair of $400 powered bookshelves like the YU6s, you're going to suddenly be treated to an $800 experience. That's not what I'm talking about. But there was a marginal or mild improvement in terms of sonics, which I have to say comes down more or less to a sense of greater separation and space. I'm not going to say the Modi 3 changed the tonality of the YU6s or resulted in higher highs, deeper bass, and all that. It just allowed for just a little bit more texture and a little bit more separation to exist between all of the various musical elements, and as a result, music just took on just a little bit more presence. And that's really it. And that's okay, because I think for $100, give or take, that is what you should expect. In a lot of ways, I think DACs have become a little bit of a dark art or a black magic sort of arena within the hi-fi space, in that a lot of people attribute night and day type performance shifts to DACs. And a lot of people may argue that by having a DAC or a better DAC, you will unlock the potential of your system. I have yet to run across a DAC that does that or causes for that much of a transformation in the sound of my system. I've definitely heard DACs that do sound great and that I welcome their presence in my signal chain. But if someone were to come to me and say, ooh, will a DAC make a bigger difference than a pair of speakers? In my humble opinion, no. But if you have a pair of speakers that you like and you have everything else kind of, to taste, having the right DAC or inserting a DAC where maybe one wasn't present will or should result in some mild improvements. And that's what I found with the Modi 3 when using it in conjunction with my Cantu YU6s. Now, where I really appreciated the presence of the Modi 3 in my system is when I used it as a DAC in a desktop headphone rig that also was comprised of the Schiit Magni headphone amp running a pair of Andover Audio PM50 headphones. And in this respect, I thought the pairing was fantastic. And this is where I got the most bang for my buck, or the most results for my dollar, when using the Modi 3 with a dedicated headphone amp in the Magni and a pair of very nice Andover Audio PM50s. Now, I'm not going to mince words. When I just use the Magni preamp with the Andover PM50s, the sound is really, really good, very satisfying, and totally and wholly enjoyable. When you add the Modi 3 to the mix, all of that is retained. It's just elevated a little bit more. And specifically, the bass is just a touch deeper, but more than that, it has a lot more texture and detail. All of the little notes are just a little bit more fleshed out and more finely detailed. And the trailing edges of every impact, be it a bass note, mid-range, or high, all seem to linger just a little bit longer. And as a result, again, there's that sense that the music is just kind of slowly opening up. Again, it's not night and day. It's not something where you're like, oh my God, it's like 1 minute I was looking through a cloudy, dirty window and then someone came along and put Windex on it. It's not quite that dramatic, but it is noticeable. It is noticeable. The pulling apart of all of the various little individual musical elements that allow you to just hear that little bit deeper, to experience just a little bit more of the nuance, the subtle details that are in music. For me, at $99, that is a solid incremental upgrade. And again, I'm not saying the Modi 3 is the end-all be-all DAC, and obviously, More expensive DACs should result in better or far superior sound. But for what it is, for someone that has maybe not had a lot of experience with DACs and maybe is just looking to add a DAC for the very first time, the Modi 3 is a no-brainer in this respect because I don't think it's going to detract or hurt your musical enjoyment. If anything, it's just going to make it a little bit richer, a little bit better, and a little bit more finely detailed, which who's going to argue with that? Who's going to have a problem with that? No one. No one. So if it does all that, and if it is a budget incremental improvement, what possibly could be wrong about it? When you connect it to a computer, laptop or iMac or PC via USB, at least with respect to Apple products, it disables or you no longer have control of volume via your keyboard. You can mute and unmute, but you can't volume up and volume down. Schiit seems to understand this because on their own website, they do mention pairing the Modi 3 with one of their passive or non-passive volume controls if you need to have variable output for your particular loudspeakers. The other thing I didn't care for, and this isn't probably a knock exclusive to the Modi, but maybe a lot of Schiit Audio's more compact designs, is if you use bulkier cables. In this instance, I used a spare set of transparent reference interconnects to connect the Schiit Magni headphone amp to the Modi 3. These cables are incredibly bulky and incredibly heavy, and as a result cause the two units to kind of want to tip off one another. I was able to get it situated, and you can also use something like blue tack to make sure that they stay together. But if you have heavier cables, if you have larger cables, this may be an issue, as the Modi 3 itself, I don't even think weighs but a pound. Lastly, like I said, there is an input selection switch on the front of the Modi, but it's picture based. And so after a few uses, you're going to get used and you're going to understand what each picture means in terms of USB, optical, or coaxial. But at first blush, especially between optical and USB, the inputs aren't exactly, I guess, intuitive. This is a minor quibble because, again, at $99 and for such a basic DAC, it's really hard to find fault with the Modi 3. Speaking of small DACs, I did compare the Modi 3 to two other small and what I would consider to be affordable DACs. The first one was a generic digital to analog converter that I purchased off Amazon from Amtac, and I've linked to this particular DAC, and you saw it featured in our Pioneer review. This is a $12 to $14 DAC. It's very basic. It's a no-frills DAC. It really does just convert a digital signal to analog. It doesn't really claim to do anything more than that, albeit I don't think that it sounds bad. I really don't. I don't think it's as good as the Modi 3, but again, it's not hindering or hurting the audio signal. So if you really want to just get your feet wet or get started with DACs, the Amtac $14 DAC from Amazon is not a bad way to go. And if you're looking purely to just add some digital inputs to a vintage piece and you don't want to break the bank because maybe your vintage piece only costs you 30 or 40 bucks, then yes, the Amtac is a great option. In comparison to, say, the DAC Magic 100 from Cambridge Audio, I do think the DAC Magic is just a little bit better, but the DAC Magic also costs twice as much at $199, I believe, at the time of this review. Now, the DAC Magic, in my opinion, it's a little bit bigger, it's a little bit more featured. It definitely has a few more bells and whistles, though not too many when you really start to break it down. I did find that I think I like the sound of the DAC Magic just a little bit better. I found it to be just a little bit richer, maybe even a little bit deeper in some parts, but the high frequencies were largely the same. And that kind of pulling apart of the music was present on both. So it was just a little bit more of a richness and a little bit more firmness of bass in the DAC Magic compared to the Modi 3. But again, I am completely splitting hairs here. Suffice to say that, again, at $99, I really don't think that you're going to be disappointed or go wrong with the Modi 3, especially if you're just getting into DACs and you kind of want to know what a good starting point is, so that if you want to upgrade down the road and start playing with some really esoteric stuff, best to set your benchmark, best to really know where the entry point is so you know how to move up from there. Because if you go too high up the food chain right away, it may sound great, but you may not know if you've kind of overdone it and could have gotten away with less. So best to start low and then build or aim higher from there. So that's it. That is my review of Schiit Audio's Modi 3 DAC. What did you guys think? I know this is a popular DAC among budding or budget conscious audiophile and hi-fi enthusiasts, and that's why I wanted to share my take on it here. So what did you guys think? What do you think of the Modi 3? Is this something that's on your radar? Is this a DAC that you want to add and start to flesh out your digital front end? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this review, please do give it a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. And be sure to follow me on Instagram at Recovering Audiophile, where we talk about, well, hi-fi, audio, art, and design, but we share a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff as well, and it gives you kind of a preview of what is coming up next. Although I do think that I've kind of kept the Modi 3 under wraps. It's been a little bit of a, I don't want to say a secret, but it's just been a little something that I know was coming, but I haven't really shared a lot about because it was part of a much bigger video series that we are working on having to do with headphones, desktop systems, and vintage gear. So that's it for me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, the only person that has to like the sound of your system is you. So thank you for watching. Be well, everyone, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.